So, what does the panel think cause drug addiction and or abuse?
I believe that drug addiction itself is caused it is like a disease, and a lot of people don't believe you like that. But if you are addicted to something, and normally you become addicted to something when you're trying to chase a high to get your mind off of something, or even if you just want to have fun, stuff like that, you can become addicted to these drugs or whatever, and it's hard to get your body's physical dependence off of that away. It physically is extremely difficult because you just crave something like you would crave drinking water or taking a breath of air.
So, especially here, what you see is a lot of people are born into these families that are sufficient drug addiction, and they're just kind of born into it with no option of what to do with their lives. So I guess it just becomes this is what my parents did, and I pick up on it, and there's no really restraint for me. They're just kind of born into a terrible place, and they don't really have the option to not do this.
Yeah, it's like a continuing cycle. That's really what it is. A lot of children are born dependent on it if their parents use drugs, well, especially their mothers use drugs while they were pregnant, fetal alcohol syndrome, stuff like that. Just continue.
It's like an instinct. It's like when they're before they're born. It messes with their genetics and all that. It causes their brains to not know anything else but the drugs.
All right, and what are some ways you could help someone quit drugs?
One of the best ways is to just be there to support somebody. At the end of the day, there's not a lot that you as a person can really do to help that person overcome their addiction, but what you can do is be there to support them while they try to figure things out. Because you can help in any way that you want to, because I'm sure that whoever it is, anything to just help alleviate the stress that comes with trying to break an addiction, helping in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But
it's important to try and persuade them in the correct direction, but it can also be hard to not enable the addiction further. But ultimately, it just comes down to them deciding for themselves to stop doing drugs and stop living that lifestyle.
Yeah, you've got to. You can't make someone quit drugs. They have to make the decision for themselves. They have to decide that they do not want to do drugs. The best thing you can do if you are addicted is to take yourself away from the people around you. Do the people around you enable you, or do they encourage you to stop? Do they help you? You can remove yourself completely. You can decide you want to go to rehab or something like that. But first and foremost, you have to decide that you're done. You don't want to do this anymore. You got to decide to quit.
All right. So moving away from a singular person abusing drugs, you think the community can have an effect on how many people abuse drugs?
absolutely. If you live around a bunch of people who use and stuff like that, a lot of other people that have addictions and stuff like that, just being around it can be enough to influence you and be like, oh well, I'll try it, why not? And then you keep coming back to try it, why not? And eventually there's no more coming back to try it anymore. You can't stop, and it's horrible. Your surroundings do influence you tremendously.
Yeah, it's so easy to access and get a hold of, and there's nobody telling you not to do it, then what's stopping you, I guess. So yeah, if you're in a community of people that are constantly abusing drugs, it's hard to resist. It's hard to not want to take a hold of it and start doing the drugs yourself to figure out,
Yeah, it's really normalized. If you live in a community where you're told from birth, no, this is bad, you don't need to do this, you're less likely to do it. But if it's continuously normalized, it's in your community, it's in your family, everyone in your family smokes cigarettes, that makes you more likely to want to smoke cigarettes too. And it's the same way with anything, Your parents went to college, you're more likely to go to college. It's just continues like that.
And I'd say going on the community, getting smaller instead of a whole neighborhood community, friend circles. Peer pressure would also be another cycle. If all your friends are doing it, you'd probably be more likely to do it because you'd think, hey, if these people are doing it, I'm close to them, we do about the same stuff pretty much. Why shouldn't I do this?
All right, and like talking about using Meadow Bridge as an example, what could like Meadow Bridge or any community do to stop like drug abuse in their town?
I mean, there's a lot of different things that would have to go into like fully ending something like that. But one of the biggest steps that people could take is just reaching out and talking to people, because I mean, you can look at a lot of people and sometimes you can tell that they may have an addiction, and a lot of times you can't. So if you think that like somebody you know or something like that has a problem that they may need help with, just being like, hey man, you know, if you've got an issue or something that you need to try and beat, I'm here to help you. Like, everybody here is here to help you. As a community, you have to come together and work with your fellow man and just help, essentially.
I mean, the way it goes back to the question you asked prior to how can you help somebody stop using drugs? I mean, ultimately it's the same idea, even for your community. I mean, you could say stricter laws or anything like that, but still, it just comes down to the person and the individual itself. There is no correct solution to get them collectively to stop. I mean, you could try and channel away all the drug use in the town, but it's just based on the individual themselves to decide what to do with their life, the way they want to live it.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that in the community there are ways that you could stop. I mean, like if it's very prevalent, you're going to want to give opportunities to younger people so they don't want to do the same thing. Opportunities basically, just to keep them away from it. If it's super prevalent, but it is down to the individual if they decide they want to go down that path or not.
Going back on what Jacob said, he said, be there to help your fellow man. It's all in your approach too. You can't just like force someone, say no judgment, but you can't like force someone to stop. You gotta help them through it, walk them through it. You can't just force them, say, hey, you need to quit this. You gotta help them through it slowly. It doesn't matter. I mean, get it done pretty much as quickly as possible, get them to stop, but you can't rush it. It's gotta be their decision.
It's a tough love kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have to be there to support and, you know, provide the best encouragement that you can, but at the same time, you have to draw the line at like enabling bad behaviors
I mean,
and things like that.
Because there's only so much
ultimately,
you can
the
do.
way
It's their life.
to prevent it is to never do it to begin with. So I guess you could say a solution could potentially be in schools for early kids, not even to high school kids, to reinforce the idea over and over from someone that is a respected member of their school or their community to not do this and to show the results of what happens when you do it. Because the solution is to not do it to begin with. It's the easiest way to not become addicted to drugs.
So we have a statistic here, and I'm gonna read off to you. You guys can tell me how you guys feel about it. Currently, 72% of opioid deaths are between the ages of 25 to 54, and few opioid deaths occur among children younger than 15. This means it mainly affects your community. Why do you think the number is so high for adults?
Number one, definitely ease of access. It's much easier for somebody, you know, old enough to go to work and drive around to have access to whatever they're wanting. And also, you know, as an adult, you're more likely to have the money to spend to afford that kind of habit. Other reasonings may be that like the majority of children, you know, anybody under the age of 18 most likely still lives with their parents. So if they have like, you know, a good guidance system from their parents and stuff like that, that can help keep these kids away from that. But once they move out and they're on their own, they can start making bad decisions. Yeah.
I don't know, for older generations, I think maybe it comes back to the opioid epidemic in West Virginia, that they get addicted to painkiller drugs that are prescribed to them, and that kind of leads them that way, but that's just a bigger, different topic altogether to describe, and it's hard to tell precisely what type of drugs we're talking about. But I'd say it's what my thought with the older community is. They get prescribed something because they've hurt themselves and they become addicted to it when they didn't even really mean to get addicted to it to begin with. But for the younger generations, just like you said, for, you know, living with your parents and being able to get a hold of it, you know, just from somebody you go to school with, somebody you know, just because you're interested.
Yeah, I think we're a lot more aware than our parents were, and older generations, because of the fact that like opioids and some of that stuff is newer. alcohol was more of the thing in their generation, so a lot of them are still alcoholics, but there aren't as many alcoholics compared to drug users.
So who do y'all see like in our schools as drug abusers?
From personal experience, people closer to my age range, like people that are upstanding kids. I mean, like straight A's, high caliber people. You wouldn't expect these guys to be addicted to anything or have any kind of bad habits or anything like that. But I mean, some of these guys are the most far out there in terms of that I can think of, and like you would never expect that out of these kinds of people. Not once, not twice, never. So, in addition to that, you know, obviously, addiction is something that it doesn't play favorites or go for one kind of person or another. It goes for everybody. So, you know, people at the top of the class, older kids and stuff like that, it gets a hold of them, usually because, you know, all their friends have been doing it for a while, or oh, they're almost out of school, they want to celebrate or something. I mean, anything like that. Younger kids, it's usually like, I want to be like the older kids and the people on TV that I see doing all this, and it's, you know, it doesn't matter if they're older or, you know, intelligent or whatever. It's just,
It could be.
yeah, it can really be anybody.
Addiction's like a shark. It looks to get whatever it can. It doesn't just target one specific person. It tries to get whatever it can.
I mean, yeah, it's
Whatever it can get its jaws on.
like,
I mean, like if you try it, you're more likely. I mean, just like once, you're more likely to. So, I mean, like I feel like it's more prevalent in poorer communities, not even just here, but like in New York City, some of the poorer suburbs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's an escape from your poverty. But like I said, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't just take one person. I mean, like anyone can be addicted to drugs.